Santa Clara Transfer Center Bookie Aboye, adding another front court piece with size. 7'1", Aboye coming from Santa Clara. In one game this season against Nevada, he notched 7 blocks, but he joins Narcisse Noy, the 7-footer from France. And Stephen Pearl continues to add and replace members of that 25-26 roster. So we'll keep you updated not only there, but what's going on in Tuscaloosa as Nate Oates and the Crimson Tide continuing to work through the portal. Well, the Braves continuing to work through the first part of their season. And joining us now, the post-game host. He does a lot of stuff with the Braves radio network. You can hear on Jocks all season long. It's our friend Barrett Sallee. And Barrett joins us on the Higginbotham Hotline. Barrett, how are you? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Doing well. How about y'all?
Man, we're doing great. It didn't start off great, but you know what? The Braves, they won the next 2 against the Marlins. You're getting more Dominic Smith. You're getting Bryce Elder pitching like good Bryce Elder. So far, Barrett, there's not a whole lot that you can't like through the first 19 games of this season.
No, there's not at all. I think getting good Bryce was critical, and then Dom Smith, what a find he has been. Great dude, professional hitter. I know that's a cliche, but that's what Walt calls him. So if Walt calls him that, then I guess we have to call him that too. And then 2 days ago, I should say, the last game of the Marlins series with Austin Riley getting hot. And I'm not as happy about the home run as I am about the double to the right center gap, because when Austin's on, he just pounds out that right center gap. So we'll take the home run for sure, but the one into the right center gap is the one that I think shows that he is finding his hitting stroke and about to have a big weekend. So it's been a fun couple of weeks so far, and I think the confidence is there. We asked Bryce after the game Wednesday how different it is, and he said, look, they were pressing all year last year, and this year it's more relaxed, and they're confident with themselves. They're not coming in expecting the worst to happen. They're confident in themselves, which is a stark change from 365 days ago.
All right, so you were talking about Austin Riley obviously trending in the right direction. I know Ronald Acuna Jr.'s batting average is going up, but still the power numbers, only 1 home run and 5 RBIs. What's the general feeling around the ball club about, if anything, what's going on with Ronald Acuna Jr. and his offense?
I think there's not really a concern. It's just sort of wait and see. Remember, before he tore his ACL 2 years ago, he was off to a slow start, and then obviously tore his ACL. Last year when he came back, he made the All-Star team, but I always kind of think that was because it was in Atlanta more than anything else, because he had that moment in his first pitch that he saw, but really he wasn't Ronald when he came back. So, I think he's been a slow starter before. There's not much of a concern. I think he's been pressing a lot and trying to do too much, and because of that, you're seeing a lot of swings and misses on balls up in the strike zone. And usually those are ones that Ronald can get to, and he's not getting to them. So, or he wasn't. I think he's starting to see more of that now. And, if at some point he's going to find that power stroke, but he has been pressing a little bit, and if he's relaxed, then I think he's fine. And I think for Ronald, you can kind of notice if he's pressing with the way he stands, because if he's just totally chill and his hands are kind of free flowing back there, then he's okay. But sometimes it feels like, it's not in reality, it kind of grips the bat too tight, like just trying to do too much. And when that happens, he's not going to be able to get to some of those high fastballs.
Barrett Sallee, Braves Radio Network, joining us here on 3-Man Front and joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. Braves set to take on the Phillies beginning tonight, 5:40, the first pitch, Central Time. Drake Ball, when you just kind of go through the list, and everybody seems to be doing their part for the most part, but let me be the first to say Ozzie Albies, and I was a guy that was ready to ship him off after last year, thought that we had seen the best days of him. His average has dipped a little bit, but Ozzie's being clutch, and this is what you need from Ozzie Albies in that lineup. Your thoughts on maybe direction? Was it hires as a hitting coach? Have we potentially, Barrett? I know I keep asking you, gone to a lighter bat. What's going on with Ozzie?
We have not found out if he's gotten a lighter bat. We've tried, but we have not been successful trying to figure out what it is yet. But yeah, I mean, I think for Ozzie, I think he had to have confidence in his hands a little bit, and he's there now. And I think the confidence in him from the staff goes a long way. You know, putting him up at the number 3 spot against lefties really helps him out. So I think for Ozzie, I think he needed a little confidence. I think he felt a little bit of the pressure, and part of that I think was not on him because he was still recovering from 2 hand injuries, and now I think he's fully healed, and I think he's seeing the ball pretty well. Even on some of those that aren't falling, he's hitting pretty hard. So at some point those are going to fall too, and so you're going to see the average bump up a little bit. But yeah, it's nice to see him clutch, and he's one of those guys where he's the straw that stirs the drink, so to speak. So if he gets hot, then I think then it helps the entire team because it's kind of they say hitting is infectious, but I think hitting and Ozzie are both infectious. So if he gets hot, then I think everybody sorts to follow in his footsteps.
Barrett Sallee from the Braves Radio Network joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. Joins us every Friday. Talk a little Braves on your home of the Braves right here on Jocks. Got to ask you about this weekend series against the Philadelphia Phillies. Folks up there very unhappy with the start to this season. Yeah. The Phillies' offense is the 3rd worst in the National League. They're hitting .229 as a group. When you take a look at this weekend and the pitching matchups and what has been wrong with their offense, how do you think this bodes for them going up against a very good Atlanta team?
Well, it's problematic. One thing Walt did, pushing the whole staff back and having Martin Perez go today, I thought was really good because it gets you Sale Sanchez tomorrow, which is exactly what you want. And I think today's going to be pivotal because I was looking at some of these matchups. Martin Perez has basically owned Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber, but Alec Boehm has lit him up like a Christmas tree. But Alec Boehm's only batting 125 this year. He's off to an absolutely wretched start. So this matchup to me is going to be fascinating, just based on history between some of these star players. I think for the Phillies, and we kind of talked about this on the Brave Central podcast, Chris and I this morning. If they struggle against the Braves, they're going to get booed out of their own building, and specifically Taijuan Walker tonight, because when you look at some of the people, I listen to sports radio sometimes up there. One of my friends, John Kincaid, does 97.5 in the morning.
Yeah.
And I mean, the frustration with the Phillies right now, 3 weeks into the season, is remarkable. And so they're teetering on the brink with their fan base a little bit. And it's some of the stars and some of the guys that they need to perform that are not performing. And like you're looking right now at a guy like Taijuan Walker, right, pitching tonight. Zach Wheeler's not there. Aaron Nola's been rough. I mean, they don't have any pitching. It's Christopher Sanchez and then figure it out. And I think looking at the Phillies, their championship window's closing. I mean, Schwarber's getting up there in age. Nola's up there in age, and he's obviously tapered off this year. Castellanos isn't there anymore. Real Muto is old. I mean, they're all those core pieces from that 22-23 crew are either old or gone. And so I think they know that. So the fans are pretty frustrated, and I think you're going to hear it if Taijuan Walker struggles today and if the Braves take care of the Phillies 2 out of 3, because they are not happy.
Barrett, you got Martin Perez, but Spencer Strider I saw where he started his rehab assignment, 3 1/3 innings, had some strikeouts. They were scoreless. I'm just playing it out. Let's just say he continues to have issues. He comes back. He's not himself. He has to go back on the injured list. Is Martin Perez, and I know this is dictated a lot on pitching, is he seen as, if that does happen, going the distance this season in that starting rotation, or could you see them maybe making some other moves and adding an additional arm?
I think right now he's going to be on this team. I think the reason he got DFA'd was because they absolutely had to have a long reliever going into the series against the Guardians, and he was just the odd man out. It worked out. Walt told us it worked out perfectly. He cleared waivers, he re-signed, and he essentially didn't even really miss a start. So I think they're happy with him. I think they're happy with him in the bullpen if that's where he needs to go. I do think Waldrop, when Waldrop comes back, and Schwelly, when Schwelly comes back, he's probably a little further off. They're okay with pitching right now. If it's Martin Perez for a little while longer, I don't think they feel like you could rely on him to be a star. But is he a reliable fifth starter? I think he's perfectly fine there, and I think they feel like he's perfectly fine there. I think in a perfect world, you wouldn't have to worry about that. Spencer comes back, Waldrop comes back, Schwelly comes back, and you have an embarrassment of riches in the starting rotation, and you have to figure out what to do. But that's a little further off.
All right, so you and Landrum got to see the fish up close and personal. I know on this program with you, we both agree that we think that the season that we're about to have for the next few months, that the fish will ultimately be right in the middle of things in the National League East, may not win it, but they can make things very difficult. What did you see? Just eyeballs on that baseball team. Do you still assess that this is a team that teams will have to reckon with for the rest of the year?
Yeah, they're pests. Like, it's just, you look at that team and you're like, man, they do everything pretty well, right? They don't do one thing great, but they do everything pretty well. And they've got guys that they trust that, can go, that they trust in long-term situations, whether it be for power, for speed, or whatever. And if they get Sandy Alcantara pitching the way he did for the first three starts, not what he did, last week, then, I mean, yeah, they're really good. They're not going to win the East. Could they sneak into the wild card? Maybe. I don't know, maybe, because one thing that I kind of realized, and actually Austin was asked about this after game 3. It's like they know who they are, right? Like, they know their limitations, but they know how to work around them. I mean, 3 stolen bases in each of the first 2 games, you don't see that. But
No.
they know they have to make things happen, and they do it. They're built where they're able to do it. So, that team, I'm impressed, man. I like the Marlins. Like I said, they might not win the division. They might not make the playoffs, but they're going to have a big say in who does.
And don't forget that they still got a guy, Kyle Stowers. We haven't seen him yet this year, but 25 home runs, almost a 300 batting average last season. So they're going to add more pop to that lineup as the season goes along, but the Braves are as well. I agree. That was a pesky team. That's a team that will be in the hunt all season long. I think they're built just the way that they play station to station baseball.
Yeah, and they're fun. Like, one thing I remember leaning over to some people in the press box, was like, this team's fun. Like, they're not great, but they're a lot of fun to watch. Unfortunately for them, like 10 people actually go to their home games. So,
yeah, I think they had more. We were there behind their dugout the other night, and I'm pretty sure that there were more people in our section that were Marlins fans than they have at home games.
Really?
Yeah. I think it was a lot of
have at home
family.
games, so.
Probably a lot of family.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of those are family tickets. A lot of times they come up, for vacations and things like that. But yeah, I mean, they're fun. I really do think that they're going to be dangerous enough where you don't treat them like the Marlins of old.
So 2 out of 3 this weekend, is that the prediction, or are we going sweep? What are we going, bold?
I'm going to go 2 out of 3. I say we get Friday and Saturday.
Okay, Friday and Saturday. Sounds like a winner.
Yeah.
We'll take it. Barrett.
And then Grant on Sunday. Maybe we sweep. I don't know, but 2 out of 3 for sure.
Am I allowed to call into your post-game show?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yes, of course.
All right. I'll be under my alias.
We offer all comers, and a lot of them have very interesting topics that they like to talk about.
Oh, I listen.
Like the 19 different ways you can balk.
Yes.
I don't know the answer to that.
No.
I know some of them.
No. Oh, well, Barrett, you do a great job. I texted you the other night. We were listening to you coming home, and you're just so comprehensive, especially if you're a Braves fan. It's awesome. We get all our information from you. So thank you so much, and thanks for appearing on this program, and go Braves.
Go Braves. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, Barrett. Sounds good. Barrett Sallee, Braves Radio Network. You can hear him tonight right here on Jocks. You can hear him before the game, after the game, at Barrett Sallee there on X. We continue here on Three Man Front. It's the Friday edition. We'll update you on the college basketball transfer portal, what's going on with both Alabama and Auburn and others. The money is definitely moving, and so are the players. Three Man Front continues on Jocks.
Great conversation with Barrett Sallee. You can hear Barrett on the Braves radio network on our Jocks family of stations. You know, I saw this happen the other night in the Nippon Professional Baseball. Just a horrible, horrible situation. Umpire Takuto Kawakami. He's 30 years old. He was excited because he got his first assignment behind home plate to umpire in the MPB. Behind the dish yesterday, the Yakult Swallows and the Yokohama Bay Stars in that game, in the 8th inning on a 2-1 pitch swing, Yakult's Jose Osuna followed through, caused the bat to fly out of Ozuna's hands. The bat came back and struck Kawakami in the temple. The umpire stumbled back and then collapsed to the ground. Kawakami struggled to sit up and even gained stability while he was on the ground. The medical crew rushed out. And it got to a point to where they literally started putting a tarp around the home plate umpire.
Oh, no.
As they were fearing the absolute worst. So they were treating him. They later carried him off on a stretcher. The home plate umpire underwent emergency surgery, and he is currently in the ICU. MPB has issued a statement treating this as a critical safety matter, and they are reviewing the protective measures for all officials. So just a terrible situation. I'll send you guys the video for you to watch.
Man, thoughts and prayers for that guy.
On what happened.
What's his name again? I know, and you did a wonderful job with all of those pronunciations.
Takuto Kawakami.
Takuto Kawakami.
Mm-hmm. Jose Ozuna.
That's awful.
From the Yakult Swallows on the 2-1 pitch on his backswing came, and the bat flew out of his hands, and it hit just the right place. I mean, he's obviously wearing a mask, but it just one of those freak situations. It hit him right in the temple and it knocked him back, and I mean, it was an extended period of time. But when they're bringing out tarps to block everybody,
I
in
saw
the
that
stadium.
during a Kentucky Derby, and that was a horse. I can't imagine a human being. So, man, that's
awful.
And I'm guessing he's got brain bleed and a lot of swelling that's going on.
So if we get an update on that,
yeah.
But yeah, it was just a terrible situation there in the Nippon Baseball League between those two teams.
I was thinking about the mask, like the mask that I retired that I used to wear, and it's in our office on the wall, and it's got the little side cage there. But would the hockey style?
Yes, I've umpired with some guys that they wear those.
Would that
those are the ones
have prevented?
I think that would have absolutely prevented it.
Mm.
I sent you the link, and you can watch the video.
That's horrible.
Yeah. So yeah, just
did you share that this was the first time he'd ever been behind home plate?
Yeah,
I did. Thanks for listening, Conrad.
Sorry, I was doing
No, he did. 30 years old. And to get that opportunity and for that to happen. That's awful.
Yep. Opportunity of a lifetime. Braves are in Philadelphia this weekend. They continue to try to have their – and I brought this up to Barrett. The Phillies are the third worst team in the National League hitting at 229. Braves are the second best team in Major League Baseball in knocking the baseball around the ball yard. But, yeah, the Phillies are – and Barrett touched on it. They are getting old quick. Real Muto behind the plate. We all know why Bone's having problems, to start the season. We all know that.
What, Ranger Suarez, he is now – he's not with them. Wheeler's not with them, right?
Suarez is someone else.
Yeah. So
Red Sox.
Yep. And then Aaron Nola. I mean,
Zach Wheeler's still with the Phillies, is he not?
I thought Nola and Wheeler were still there.
Yeah.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they're going to need them. Hopefully.
So how about this? A win by a player to get an extra year of eligibility. At least he had to go to court to get it. Oklahoma linebacker Owen Heineke has been granted an injunction which will allow him to play one more year of college football. The decision was made late Thursday afternoon by Judge Thad Balkman at the Cleveland County, Oklahoma courthouse. Heineke, a native Oklahoman and former walk-on who became a breakout star for the Sooners last year, took on the NCAA, took him to court after the organization denied his request for a fifth year of eligibility. His case centered on this argument. He has only played 3 seasons of college football, and the NCAA's own rules give every other student athlete 4 years. The biggest complication of the Heineke case was his freshman year at Ohio State. You remember we talked about this a couple weeks ago, where he played approximately 15 minutes of lacrosse and in 3 matches before transferring to Oklahoma, and he walked on to the football team. The NCAA counted his lacrosse season as a year of eligibility. So he goes to court, he goes and he wins this hearing, and he gets an injunction. Coach Brent Venables and General Manager Jim Nagy both testified on his behalf to get that additional year, which it's interesting because Nate Oates was not in a courtroom for Bediako. You did have Joe Judge in the courtroom for Trinidad Chambliss. I think a lot of people probably wanted Joe Judge not to be in the courtroom based on some of the things he said. But anyway, I know what you're thinking, Conrad. I just want to go ahead and tell you, no, there was no Greg Sankey affidavit stating that Heineke's eligibility would undermine the NCAA rules, damage the integrity of college sports, and cause unfairness. No, he did not make a comment.
Well, that came out last evening. I'm sure he's taking a long weekend, so on Monday it'll come down.
I think that's what it is.
Through the fax machine.
We do have some breaking news, Conrad, from the National Football League, and it involves someone that folks in this market is very familiar with.
Yeah, talk about big-time money for a former Alabama star in the NFL. So Houston Texans defensive end Will Anderson just signed a new extension with the Texans, according to Adam Schefter. It is a 3-year, $150 million extension, making him the highest paid non-quarterback in the history of the National Football League, and that includes $134 million guaranteed. $50 million.
134 guaranteed?
Yeah. $50 million a year.
He can buy live. You like golf?
Woo! Talk about a payday.
Man.
Talk about a payday.
How many sacks did he have against Texas A&M?
For context, Myles Garrett recently signed a deal last year with the Browns, and I think most people would agree he's the best defensive player in the NFL. He's making $40 million a year.
3 years, $50 million. I know it's 3 years, $150 million, $50 million a year. I know it's easy to ask. I know how I would answer, but if you're Will Anderson, you just hit it real hard for 3 years and you call it.
And then you call it a day. I mean, he might do the Aaron Donald thing, just, have a really nice 10-year career in the NFL. You're going to be a Hall of Famer potentially if he can keep it up. And then,
how many years has he been?
This will be, he's going into year 3 or 4.
Okay.
I would assume this is year 4.
Good for him.
That's insane money.
That is insane money.
But yeah, like you said, good for him.
Well, it's also insane money of the AC drifting right out of your house. Money that you're losing. You don't want to be losing. You work hard for it. Well, get new windows and doors through our friends at EcoView Windows and Doors. The owner is Becky Jackson. Her husband and her son, they're both a part of the family team, and they do wonderful work. They're people right here in Alabama, and it's a national company, but these are local owners, and they know the state of Alabama, and they know what you expect. EcoView, it's great. Not only do they have the windows, and windows you can wide array. Awning windows, bay windows, you want to go with a casement window, double hung windows, energy efficient windows, vinyl windows, impact windows, even hurricane protection. They've got that, and it doesn't stop there. An assortment of different doors, whether it's a fiberglass entry door, a patio door, replacement doors, impact doors. All of that you can find there at EcoView Windows and Doors. You can go to ecoview.com. But our friends here in Alabama, here in central Alabama, they're ready to help you. They got a pledge to save you at least 35% on heating and cooling. In the first 12 months of installation, you replace all the windows and doors. And a lot of times they can come out and replace all of those, even on a big job, and do it in one day. These folks have it down to a science. Just check them out, and they'll come out and they'll give you the estimate, the free estimate. You can do it right now if you're a Jocks listener. All you have to do is call 205-564-8480 to schedule that free estimate, or you can go to ecoviewwindows.com, ecoviewwindows.com, 205-564-8480. Tell Becky that Landrum from Jock sent you.
Coming up next on Three-Man Front, Mike Rodak from Bama 247 joins us next on the show. $12:33 here on Jocks on this Friday. Thanks for tuning us in. Pat Landrum, Molly Conrad with you until 2 o'clock. Joining us now on the Higginbotham Hotline. Joins us every Friday from Bama 247, Mike Rodak. Glad to see that you did not get put in Bryant-Denny jail by trying to pirate some videos from last Saturday's A-Day game.
Yes.
No, yeah, we were in the stands. I mean, it's a public event. It's not ticketed. It's free for the public. So we felt, well within our rights, sitting in a better vantage point to actually see what was going on. But I think the their intention was to put us down in the end zone suite, whatever it's called, the recruits lounge, and whatever. At the end of the day, saw
Did,
the practice. I think
did we ever
people
get
there were
clarification
videotaping it.
on the videoing?
On what?
Well, I mean, I saw plenty of people videoing. I'm guessing they didn't have a marshal walking around taking up people's phones.
Right. So if you're part of the media, there was none of that allowed. And they said that they would be watching for anybody who had their phones up. But, there's, I don't know, 5,000-10,000 people there, probably 15, somewhere in that range. And of that, everybody has phones. A lot of people have social media. And so a lot of video and live streams and all sorts of things, can get out. So at the end of the day, kind of silly, because I think if you wanted to find a highlight of a play that happened on A-Day, I'm sure you could get on Twitter or YouTube and find it pretty quickly, even without us. Now, that does raise the question, what do we do? What is our purpose in the world? I don't know. But that is kind of the, I guess, the contradiction that was at play there.
All right, let's start with the quarterbacks. I completely understand Austin Mack dinged up, as Kalen DeBoer said. He got 5 drives. You got, obviously, Keelan Russell with 9 drives. Just based on the information and what you've seen, very limited, I understand, during the spring. But as we head into the fall, as of this moment, Mike, if you were putting out a depth chart, who's 1 and who's 2 at quarterback?
It's a good question, because I do both the Lindy's and the Athlon preview magazines, and those are due next week, or one of them is already due. And so I've put out a depth chart that will get published in those magazines. And this was after the spring game. And in both of those magazines that I've done, I've had Austin Mack as the current starter for the depth chart. And I know people are shocked, right? Because Keelan Russell clearly had the better A-Day. But I think really the word throughout the early part of the offseason, January, February, into March, into spring practice, was like Austin's a little bit ahead. He has the experience in the system. He was the number 2 last year. That was kind of his position. And I don't think it was a huge gap, but I would have leaned towards Austin Mack, for a while. And I don't know if A-Day necessarily changes that. It's just one practice. It was not a good day for Austin Mack, but I don't know if that all of a sudden is like, all right, Keelan Russell's our starter, let's go. Like it's April, 16th, 17th right now. Like there's still a lot of time. And I think that, obviously you have all the summer workouts that will kind of happen behind the scenes, and then you have fall camp, and it could go 3 weeks in the fall camp and multiple scrimmages and all that. So I wouldn't put all the eggs in the A-Day basket, and we'll have to see what happens. And look, I think if Keelan Russell continues to play like he did on A-Day, it's going to be hard to say no for him being the starter. But I also think the body of work throughout the spring for Austin Mack was better than what we saw on A-Day. That's something that Kalen DeBoer said, that if you look at the highlight reel of Mack's spring, that you would be impressed as well. So, again, I think I would still, right now, in this very moment, lean towards Mack. But, I mean, Keelan Russell has all the opportunity and all the potential to take that job, and obviously has the higher ceiling as a player as well.
Let's stay with the positives. What was something else that was really, really positive for you to see?
I think the defensive line, and obviously the last time that we sat and down and watched a football game live was the Rose Bowl. Not that this was a game on Saturday, but it was the closest thing to it. And, the Rose Bowl, we all saw what happened, to that defensive line against Indiana. Alabama's offense right now is not Indiana's offense from last year, but I think the defensive line looked better to me than what they did the last time we saw them. And it looks a lot different because of Devin Tompkins, because of Terrence Green, because of Kedrick Bingley-Jones, because of Steve Bolo and Bumua taking a big step forward. And there were still some guys out. I mean, London Simmons has been out in the spring. Edric Hill was out. A couple other guys, Jeremiah Beeman. But the group that was on the field, to me, looked pretty good. And, yeah, there's a couple runs that were broken early in the practice, but it felt like as the practice went on, it was more and more of those kind of run stuffs, and especially at the goal line as well, where they were holding up pretty well. So, that was obviously a problem area. I'd say at times last year, not always, but, there's certainly some games where the defensive line was an issue. And, if they can correct that or improve upon that with some of the new players that they have, and I think they're very optimistic and pleased about those guys, then, that's good news for the defense.
Mike Rodak, Bama 247, joining us here on Three Man Front. So let's talk about the running back room. And I know it goes hand in hand with the offensive line. Crowell, not around for this spring camp for he was dinged up, but there was some other opportunities. Let's start with the running back room. What do you hear from that standpoint? Who could potentially be the ones and twos going into the fall camp?
Yeah, I mean, the guys who were with the ones on Saturday were really the guys that I expected, and that was Daniel Hill and Kevin Riley. In fact, it was Riley who took the first rep, kind of the honorary, here's your first rep of the first team on Saturday. And, I still think, again, if you're filling out a depth chart right now, which I just did, those would be the top two guys. And I know people are excited about Trayshawn Brown, the 3-star freshman out of Texas, and he made a couple nice plays on A-Day, and I think he's, done well for himself this spring. People are excited about Crowell because of his talent, even though he's been hurt. And, even A.K. Deere, who was a pretty highly rated recruit last year, I think people want to see what he can do. And he had a couple opportunities on A-Day as well. But right now, if you're playing a game, I think it's Daniel Hill and Kevin Riley, because those are the veterans and those are the players that you trust. Those are the players who are, the most experienced within your system. But it's a really interesting position, because at the end of the day, you're probably going to play in most games 2 to 3 running backs, and snap wise, carry wise, it's hard to do more than that. And which 2 or 3 will those be? And it changed last year. It kind of morphed as the season went on, but I don't know. Of those 5 or 6 that they have, you can kind of make a whole different list of combinations. And I don't know. I think part of it's going to depend on how quickly can Crowell come along in the fall when he does get healthy, or in fall camp, because he's still young. I mean, he was a junior at Jackson High School when he enrolled early at Alabama. So to expect him to just come in as a freshman and have this huge role still seems a little bit lofty, but he's good enough where if he is showing some progress, it's going to be hard to keep him off the field as well.
All right. The second part of that question, the offensive line. I understand that these guys have only been together for 15 practices, but how are they shaping up based on your intel, based on what you saw? Should Alabama fans like Conrad be excited about the potential of the offensive line?
Excited, that's a strong word.
Okay. All right.
No, Mike,
that's a big
no.
word. Yeah, I think it's, you can be cautiously optimistic that they have some talent in a couple of spots that, like Michael Carroll and Jackson Lloyd were 2 of the highest rated offensive line prospects in last year's class. We saw Carroll come in last year and perform pretty well. I think they're optimistic about what Jackson Lloyd can do at left tackle. So in theory, you have a couple dudes. I think it's a big question mark at center with Rayson Delgatti and kind of the transition that he'll have to make, from Cal Poly to Alabama. I don't know if the spring solves anything, or, if there's a true answer to that. And I think it's your left guard and your right tackle spot that you're like, ugh. I mean, Will Sanders has been out in the spring with, back surgery. And even then, he was not, by the end of the season, really part of that rotation at guard. And that guard rotation was not performing all that well. And then you obviously made the move because I think you feel better about Javen James at right tackle than you do about some of the options at guard if you don't put Carroll there. So that's why I think Carroll's at guard, because they like Javen James at tackle more than they like the other guys at guard. So it's kind of a, to see what happens. It's I don't know. It's clearly the weak link on this team. If you're kind of, scouting position by position, that's, the biggest question mark, no doubt. I think there's some reason for optimism, but at the end of the day, it just may be what it is. I don't know if there's some magic solution that's going to come flying in. I think you might just have to deal with the players that you have.
Okay. I'm going to pay off the promo. Worst case scenario for Alabama, as you see it right now. Worst case scenario record-wise, and what would that worst case scenario mean for one Kalen DeBoer?
It's a good question. I think we talked early in the offseason about win total expectation.
Yeah, you dropped the number 8 to
9
8
wins.
Yeah, you said 8 and 4 one.
It was
time.
8 or 9.
Yeah.
Right. and people freaked out. And again, you have to remember the context of everything changes
Right.
because of the 9-game SEC schedule. And people need to kind of wrap their heads around that there's 8 more losses among the 16 teams in the SEC that have to happen this year because you're playing an extra SEC game. So kind of by default, all of your win totals are kind of depressed a little bit unless you just assign those 8 losses to the worst 8 teams. But I don't know if that's going to happen. So, like, could I see Alabama winning 7 games? Yeah, I don't think that's crazy. Like, this is a team. I just went through the returning starters. Like, if you're talking about players who started more than half of the games last year, there's only 6 players back from last year. There's a lot of question marks in terms of the portal and freshmen coming in and young players into new roles. And if that doesn't work out, and if injuries happen or whatever else happens, like, it's not crazy to win 7 games in a 9-game SEC schedule. And, it's what that means for Kalen DeBoer. I think the biggest question, if you get to the end of the year and you're not in the playoffs and you've won, 7, 8, maybe 9 games, are we making a coaching change? If we do make a coaching change, I think if you're Alabama, you have to ask yourself, what are we giving the new coach that DeBoer didn't have?
Yeah.
In terms of resources, because I don't think, magically you're just going to have more money to spend. And I think, as you heard from Greg Byrne earlier this week, like, Alabama is very cautious about not getting themselves in trouble with kind of the above the cap NIL spending. And if you bring in a new coach and you have that same issue, are you in the same spot? Or do you look at it as we need to change the culture, that Kalen DeBoer was too far, swinging the pendulum in the opposite direction from where we were under Nick Saban, and we just need a coach that is going to bring a little bit of a harder line? That could be the answer as well. But I think if you're, winning 7 or 8 games, that conversation is without a doubt going to happen. And whether it actually results in a coaching change, I don't know. But yeah, I think that would be the floor is probably 7 to me.
All right, before we let you go, I want to ask you about what the transfer portal in basketball, what Alabama has been able to do. They announced yesterday a 6'7" forward from NC State, a wiry young fella. He'll have, I think, 4 years of eligibility left. That's Crower. What have you made of the transfer portal, what they've done so far? Any more work you anticipate, where they currently stand?
Yeah, my son, who's home from school today, would have loved your 6'7" reference right there. Yeah, 7-year-olds, they love that stuff.
Oh, yes, they do.
It's been an interesting couple weeks, for them, because you're kind of seeing the same thing unfold where, from an NIL standpoint, they're just not quite at the top. And schools that are basketball first, especially Indiana and Louisville right now, are able to spend more.
Right.
And that's just kind of the reality of it. I talked about this on the show last week, like, Big East schools too, because they don't have football to worry about from a rev share standpoint. And so, you've kind of shifted, I think, the strategy a little bit. Like, you're probably not going to get those top portal guys, and maybe somehow they can get Donnie Freeman. I think that's the big question right now. The Syracuse forward, who's seemed like he was going to UConn for a while, and now it's kind of between Kentucky and Alabama. Can they pull that off? That would be a big win for them. But in terms of what they've gotten so far, it's probably a tier below. Between Brandon Garrison and Jamarian Davis Fleming, like, it's not the top tier bigs on the market. But can you put something together for next year where you combine that with some of the backcourt talent that you have? And they're going hard after high school players. Like, they brought in a good high school class. They essentially just added one in Clower, even though he's from NC State. Mm-hmm. He never played at NC State. He was just an early enrollee who got hurt in high school. He was basically just there to rehab. And then obviously they had the coaching change. So he's essentially a freshman coming in. And so that's really the big question, is kind of how do all these freshmen look? And you not only have 4 freshmen, if you count Clower, but you have, I think, 6 sophomores right now. And that includes Amari Allen if he comes back, and includes some of the other guys they already have. That's a young team, but it's a talented team. So, I think where other teams maybe have built through experienced players in the portal who are 4th, 5th year guys, whatever. Lendeborg last year was a very experienced, very talented player for Michigan, for instance. I think Alabama's kind of taking a different approach, or maybe they can't get that sort of player. But if they're able to kind of getting a second tier portal player and combine that with, some good young freshmen, kind of see where that goes. And, that's probably where they're at right now.
That is Mike Rodak. Mike, can't thank you enough joining us every Friday throughout the football season. We're gonna actually give you some time off. We're gonna let you go on sabbatical here on the three-man front program. So unless we got some breaking news, I won't bother you for a while. I'll let you kind of chill out for the next few weeks.
I'll miss you guys.
No, you
can
won't.
just call me on a Friday. I'll answer.
You're just saying that. I mean, it's when Conrad says Mike seems bothered again this week. Doesn't sound like he wants to talk Alabama. Just kidding. He doesn't say that. Landrum does. Anyway, Mike, seriously, all kidding aside, thank you so much. And of course, we will be bothering you, but as we take a little respite, as we all take a deep breath as we get ready for summer workouts. And before you know it, we'll have that wonderful meeting down in Destin, Florida. And then, man, acceleration will really happen after that with SEC Football Media Days.
I can't wait.
I can
See
tell.
if I'm actually there or not. I don't know if I'm making a trip down to Tampa.
Well, Mike,
good old SEC Media Days. We'll see.
Mike, that makes a lot of us. So don't feel bad. Don't feel bad at all.
Changed event these days, but
it
anyway,
certainly
that's
is.
a couple months away.
It is. All right, Mike. Best. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon.
You too, guys. Thank you.
Appreciate it. That's Mike Rodak, Bama 247, a great friend to this radio program. I just decided, hey, it's been very kind with his time. Every single Friday from August until today.
Yeah.
Every Friday.
Well, I was talking to him before he came on, and he was very excited to be able to go back to White Castle because he's going to have a little bit of time off. So he's got a big road trip ahead of him.
No doubt about it. He joined us on the Higginbotham Hotline because you deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services. If you missed any of our interviews today, Mike Rodak, Bama 247, just a few moments ago. Also earlier in the program, Wimp Sanderson, great interview with Coach as always, and Barrett Sallee talking Braves baseball. We have the fourth and final hour straight ahead on this program. You can join in on the fun, 1-800-239-WJOX. You can also text the show, 205-834-9450. We will put a bow on this week's edition of Three Man Front. Hope you'll stick around for the next 60 some odd minutes. This is Jock's Three Man Front.